are the 20 teams that will make up the 2022-2023 Premier League season. But of course, who's going to face the drop and who's going to go all the way to the top? My insane early door predictions are coming at you next. Prediction video today. We are taking a look at the early door Premier League season, of course, 2022-2023, and I'm going to give you my insane early door picks in just a second. If you're new, where you been, smash your subscribe to keep banging today. All things Premier League related, related, world football related. We got it all here, boys, under one Rooski. Of course, we're going to take a little look at what my insanely early door picks. I know the final whistle is still ringing in our ears from the Championship playoff final, and of course, we've now put the last team in the mixer for the 2022-2023. Of course, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, what you think about my picks, and of course let me know your own predictions for your early door picks. But anyway, let's get into it. Next up, of course, we have 11th placed Brentford. That's right, doing better than last season. Of course, their first season in the Premier League is the second season. Of course, we've got to avoid that second season syndrome. But of course, key for them is the manager, Thomas Frank, who was in consideration to become manager of the year amongst some of the big boys, Pep and Klopp, of course. But unfortunately missed out. 750 to 1 for them to get the title. But of course, don't touch that with a barge pole. But potentially on the horizon is a top half finish. I do think they'll just slip outside of that and of course be 11th. Will Ericsson return for the red and white stripes of Brentford? Of course, we'll have to wait and see about that. But until then, they're going to be good contenders for mid-table, and avoid that drop zone because it's going to get nasty. Let's get into it. Of course, out in the Premier League. Next up, I do have Aston Villa with Stevie G. That's right. Last time around, finishing in 14th down at Villa Park. This time, I think a couple of spots better. It's a 12th spot with, of course, Stevie G. His balls. Coutinho signed on the dotted line to become a permanent Villa villain, of course, next time around. And I do think they're going to be very, very busy once again in the transfer market. 250 to 1 to get the championship. Of course, the trophy at the end of the campaign. But for me, mid-table obscurity for Stevie G's boys. Well, next up, of course, out in the Premier League, we have Graham Potter's Brighton of Albion. That's right, finishing an impressive 9th last time around. Of course, I don't expect the same success this time around, but I do anticipate them to still be contenders for mid-table out in the Premier League. 13th for me, 250 to 1 to go the distance. Of course, you don't want to touch that with a barge pole, but still. And again, keep it whole, Potter is massive. If one of the bigger boys does wobble this season, you like your Spurs, who else could wobble? Chelsea, maybe even Manchester United, of course, if they were to wobble and hit the panic button. Of course, Potter will be one of the names that's going to be top of the pops. And of course, if he does leave Brighton at any stage, that's going to have a major effect as to their survival hopes. But for me, 13th in the table should be okay for the Seagulls. We have Leeds United, that's right, Jesse Marsh's boys surviving in the Premier League on the final day with a great escape, of course, taken over from Bielsa midway through the last season. Of course, new season, new era, and I get a chance for Leeds United to get it right. I can only see them finishing in 16th this campaign, which of course will mean another season of Premier League football, and that's of course what the Lily Whites is. The Lily Whites, but anyway, doesn't really matter. But what the LMO faithful want is to remain in the Premier League, and they'll do that, finishing in 16th. At the 15th spot, we of course have got Fulham. That's right. I actually see them hanging around this season. Mitrovic's goals is going to be absolutely massive. Of course, the management has been here at this level before. Wasn't he there at Everton? Of course, maybe even Watford as well. But anyway, key person to of course drive the Cottagers on this campaign, keeping some of the key because when you look to their squad in the Championship, it definitely was of a Premier League quality, streets ahead of the rest of the pack. And of course, I do see them mixing up with, of course, the teams down the walls at the bottom of the pile towards relegation. But they're going to get it done this time around and be back in the Premier League for at least a second season. Nottingham Forest, they've gone and bloody done it, haven't they? Fantastic turnaround for Stevie Cooper's boys, doing the unthinkable. Of course, he took over the reins, remember that, when they were in deepest, darkest trouble, and they looked like they were heading towards League One, but guess what? He turned it all around, and of course, drived Forest to the glory land. First time since 1999 back in the Premier League. Will they be there for another season? I believe so. For Forest, they've got some high quality talent as well. Young Brennan Johnson will probably remain with Forest this time around. J.J. Spence will come in for Middlesbrough on a permanent basis, and maybe, just maybe, Forest will look to make the deals of Zinkernagel a permanent one. Of course, they've been investing over the years, and I think now that the glory years are back, I think we might be able to see a new era at the City Ground with Nottingham Forest. But 17th spot for them, they'll take that all day long, and of course will progress into the next seasons back in the Premier League. Meanwhile, in 17th spot over in the Premier League, of course, it is Everton once again. That's right, Frank Lampard's boys. 250-1 to go the distance to become champions, but for me, another season of woe. That's right, 16th last time around, 17th this time around. It was very much apparent that the problems still persist at Goodison Park, as we saw them steamrolled over by Arsenal on the final day of the season. I don't think everything's going to be fixed over the course of the summer, and it looks like some of the big boys, like the Richarlisons, like the Calvert-Lewins, will probably leave Goodison Park this campaign. They've got a big load of debts, and of course they are still trying to compete amongst their big boys, but can they do it this time around? I don't think so. Will Lampard remain this season? I don't think so either, but that's of course the tail of the tape. 17th in the Premier League for Everton. 18th spot, we have Southampton. That's right, of course, last season, whether they finished, they finished. Of course, 15th, of course, last round out in the Premier League, but this time around, I think they're actually going to go down, of course. Losing Broja, of course, up top will cause them to have less significant firepower than they did this time around. Current odds, we see all them 500-1 to win the title. No chance they're going to go down. Bit of a shocker here down in 19th spot. It is Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's right, I think they're going to go down. Shocker, Rooney, Bruno Lage. I do like Bruno Lage, but I just think he's been a little bit underwhelming for Wolves. And of course, the strength of the division is getting much more competitive over in the Premier League now. We've got rid of those six-fingered freakazoids. But of course, yeah, Bruno Lage's boys finishing in 10th last time around, going all the way down to 19th. You can currently get odds of 250-1 for them to get promoted or to go the distance and win the trophy. But for me, I think they're going to go down in 19th spot. Shocker, Rooney. Next up out of the Premier League, of course, it is going to be Bournemouth. They are going to go down. 20th spot for me in the Premier League. Of course, last time around, they did finish second out in the Championship with, of course, Scotty Parker still at the helm. It's going to be a busy transfer window for them. Of course, they were very active in the January transfer window last season Championship, but are those players actually Premier League quality? I don't think so. I think they're going to struggle. Of course, they're going to go right back down. Bit of a yo-yo club, just like Norwich, but of course, this season, they'll be bottom of the pile. Until then, next up. Next, of course, out in the Premier League will be Crystal Palace. That's right, coming at you out in 10th spot. Of course, last season finishing into 12th. Patrick Vieira did a fantastic job so far at the helm at Selhurst Park, but they will go one stage better. Of course, however, they're going to have to manage the loss of Conor Gallagher in midfield, but you currently can get odds at 500-1 for them to go the distance and lift the trophy at the end of the season. But for me, progression in the right hands, in, of course, Vieira's hands, and of course, another steady season in the Premier League. In tonight's spot, we of course have Leicester City. That's right, of course, last time around finishing in 8th. I do see them going one step backwards because I do feel the field out in the Premier League is getting much stronger. That's right. So Leicester City with Brendan Rodgers 150-1 to, of course, repeat their glory from a few years ago. Don't see it happening, of course. Mid-table obscurity, and of course, are they battling for Europe? Let me know, of course, down below. Spot in the Premier League, it is West Ham United. That's right, of course, David Moyes will be back as manager. Of course, they did finish 7th last time, which does mean Europa Conference League. It could be a little bit of a sneaky trapdoor to get into the Europa League next time around. That, of course, competition will add a little bit of pressure, of course, and strains for Premier League football. But of course, Moyes will have to prioritise one part throughout the season. Of course, will it be Premier League or will it be European football? You never know. 150-1 for West Ham to get the title at the end of the season. Ain't too bad odds, but of course, 8th spot for me in a very competitive Premier League. Into Next spot over in the Premier League, we have, of course, the rich bitches, Newcastle United. Eddie Howe, of course, amongst the contenders to be manager of the season last season, of course, dragged the Geordies up as high as 11th, just shy of course, the top half finish. But, of course, they'll go better next season and maybe even compete for the outside European spots, of course, maybe in the Europa League. 7th for me, 50 to 1 to go the distance. Will they spend big money this time around? Probably not. Maybe a bit of money, but, of course, they'll need to keep a hold of some of the key grafters from last season and maybe transition it into a more top-heavy team. There were some good performances last season, but can they break into the top 6? Probably not. 7th for me, Eddie Howe's Newcastle United. Of course, into 6th spot, of course, we have Arsenal. That's right, one better than last year, finishing in 5th. Mikel Arteta's boys will be busy in this transfer window, trying to, of course, improve their striking options. They'll be competing on multiple fronts with the return of European football, but I just think that added responsibility, of course, focus will result in a backwards progress in the Premier League, and of course, ultimately finish in a 6th spot for the Gunners. Next up, of course, out in the Premier League is 5th place Chelsea. That's right, Thomas Tuchel's boys, of course, finishing in the Champions League spots last time around. Of course, will drop off a little bit as, of course, the chasing pack improves the squad, their football quality, all that kind of good stuff. And, of course, some of these big boys are going to take a hit. For me, it's going to be Thomas Tuchel's boys coming at you in 5th spot. Ain't that right, Luna? Oh! Over in the Premier League, and it is the other half of Manchester. It's the red half. It is Manchester United with Erik ten Hag at the helm. Of course, United finishing 6th last time around. Of course, not competing in Champions League. They'll be back in the Europa League, where, of course, that could be an outside path for Champions League. But I think they'll get their act together this campaign with a heavy investment in the squad, bounce back ability, and of course, recharging the Red Devils to back into Champions League football. But 4th for them, maybe a title push next season. But right here, right now, I think they're going to be in the top 4. Next up, of course, out in the Premier League will be 3rd place, and it will be Liverpool. That's right, Jurgen Klopp's boys had a fantastic season last season. Of course, missed out to become champions of England once again, but can they do it this time around? No, for me, I don't think so. Odds at 21 to 1. Of course, with probably the impending release or sale of Sadio Mane could be a major player in the success and failures for Liverpool this season. But for me, I think they're going to be 3rd place, of course, competing on multiple fronts as they have been this past season. But yes, 3rd place, a bit of a degrade, but of course still competing for the big boys. Prize pick for 2nd spot over in the Premier League is Tottenham Hotspur. That's right, Antonio Conte's boys have done absolute business out in the transfer market in January onwards this season, but of course looking to add further additions this campaign. That's right, current odds 22 to 1 to go the distance. 4th last time around, 2nd this time around, of course back in Champions League football as well. And I do see the front three of Son, Kane and Kulusevski doing an absolute stormer this time around out in the Premier League with a full season under the belt. The big deal is making sure Conte stays. If he goes, I do think they'll be going backwards, but instead of going forwards. But 2nd spot, runners up for Spurs, ain't too shabby. Top spot, of course, out in the Premier League will be Manchester City. That's right, Pep Guardiola's boys already strengthening their squad already with the signing of Haaland, of course, a goal-scoring machine, hotly linked with, of course, Real Madrid. Who else was in the mix? PSG, perhaps. We're looking at him, but of course, it's a missing ingredient from an already talented squad, and of course, I think the goals will come for him in a style of play that might be a little bit different to what he's suited to from his days at Dortmund. But can they go the distance and get a little bit closer to European glory? We'll have to wait and see. But for me, it's going to be the same guys lifting the trophy at the end of the season. You can get odds of 7 to 4 on for Manchester City to become champions once again. And of course, Pep Guardiola is going to go nowhere. And again, I do anticipate a strong season in the transfer market as they try to fill up some holes of some aging players. But still, cream of the crop, Manchester City. You have it, folks. There you have it. That's, of course, my tip at the top for, of course, this upcoming Premier League season, 2022-23 season. Of course, my opinions are likely to change over the next few weeks. Of course, we do have the transfer window bubbling. Some big names could arrive. Some big names could actually leave. The managerial merry-go-round could also take a few spins and twists and turns. So I'm probably going to make another one of these videos, probably either the week before the start of the season or maybe a week or the week of the transfer window, or something like that. But anyway, these are my insane gut reaction, of course, what I think is going to happen this coming season. But until then, guys, make sure you let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think Haaland will rip it up this time around over in the Premier League? Of course, can anyone catch Manchester City, of course, from regaining the title for the 3rd time in a row? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. But until then, guys, I'll see you soon for the next one. Until then, we're done.